Hey, I'm really happy you're here. Not just listening, but showing up for your own growth. That already says something powerful about you. So let me begin with something honest, maybe even unexpected. I didn't go abroad. I didn't grow up in an English-speaking country. I didn't have native-speaking friends. And I definitely didn't have an international lifestyle or expensive classes. What I had was a quiet room, a second-hand notebook, cheap headphones, and a very loud dream. You see, I used to believe that people like me couldn't become fluent in English because I thought fluency was for travelers, exchange students, kids raised on Disney Channel, not for someone sitting in a small room in a small town, staring at YouTube subtitles and repeating words to themselves like a whisper. I'd scroll through social media and see people say things like, "I became fluent in 6 months after moving to the US." Living abroad was the turning point for my English. Immersion is everything. And I'd nod. But deep down, I'd think, then what about me? If I never leave this place, will I ever get there? Can I really learn English just from home? Those thoughts used to scare me. They made me feel small. They made me feel like my dream was just out of reach. But here's what changed. One day, I stopped asking for permission. I stopped waiting for the perfect opportunity. I stopped believing that only people who travel deserve to speak confidently. And instead, I just started. It wasn't fancy. I didn't have a study plan at first. I didn't even know where to begin, but I made one decision that changed everything. If I can't go to an English-speaking country, I'll bring English into my world. And slowly, the pieces came together. I started talking to myself in English, listening to English podcasts while brushing my teeth, journaling my feelings in simple English sentences, watching movies without subtitles, then with subtitles, then again without them. No flight ticket, no speaking partner, just me and my commitment. Day by day, my confidence grew louder than my doubt. So, if you're like I was, at home, feeling isolated, wondering if you have what it takes, I want you to hear me clearly. You don't need to travel to build your voice. You don't need permission to become fluent. You don't need to be surrounded by native speakers to feel proud of your English. What you do need is trust, consistency, and the courage to speak, even when no one's listening. This episode is my story, my exact path, the mistakes I made, the tricks that helped, the days I almost gave up, and the moment I realized I don't have to go abroad. I just have to go deeper. Because learning English is not about where you are, it's about who you're becoming. And if you're here right now, you've already taken your first step. Let's keep walking together. Are you ready? Let's begin. For a long time, I truly believed that the only way to become fluent in English was to leave everything behind and move abroad. It felt like a rule, an unspoken one, but a strong one, and I followed it in my head. Even when I didn't say it out loud, I believed the lie that my environment would always hold me back. That people like me, who never got the chance to live overseas, would always speak slowly, always second-guess our grammar, always sound almost fluent, but never quite there. I used to think, maybe if I were in Canada right now, I'd be confident. If I lived in London, I'd be fluent in a year. If I had friends who only spoke English, maybe I'd finally stop translating. But that kind of thinking, it made me feel powerless. It made me feel like my success was locked inside a country I couldn't afford to visit. And it took me years to realize. That belief was the biggest wall in my way. One night, I was scrolling through the comments section of a language video. I was feeling frustrated, tired. It had been a long day, and my English practice felt slow, invisible. But then I saw a short comment from a girl in Brazil. She wrote, "I've never been abroad. I just listen, read, and speak at home. And today, I had my first job interview in English. It went well." And I just stopped. I stared at that comment like it was glowing. She didn't say she was perfect. She didn't say she was native-like. She didn't say she had everything figured out. She just said she tried. She showed up for herself. And it worked. That one sentence from a stranger on the internet cracked something open in me. I realized I'd been waiting for a country to make me fluent, waiting for a visa to give me permission, waiting for someone to drop me into an English-speaking environment and say, "Okay, now you're allowed to grow." But no one was going to do that. And that's when I decided, if I can't go abroad, I will bring English into my world. Fully, boldly, without apology. I stopped treating my room like a barrier and started treating it like my training ground. I didn't need to fly across the ocean. I needed to change how I was thinking. So I did. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I stopped comparing my progress to people with passports full of stamps, and instead, I asked, how much English can I experience right here, in my space, in my schedule, in my daily life? And that one question gave me back my power. So, if you've ever thought, I'll never be fluent because I can't travel, I don't have anyone to speak to, so I'll never improve, I'm stuck because I'm not in the right place, please hear this from someone who used to believe the same thing. It's not where you are, it's what you do. If you build the habit, create the environment, and stay consistent, English will meet you where you are, and it will grow with you. You don't have to go abroad to feel proud of your voice. You just have to stop waiting and start speaking today. Once I let go of the idea that fluency only lives abroad, I started asking myself a better question. If I can't move to an English-speaking country, can I make my world feel more like one? And you know what? The answer was yes. Not instantly, not perfectly, but step by step, I began to build something powerful. An English world, right inside my home. It started with the smallest shift. One morning, I changed the language on my phone to English. It felt confusing at first. Settings became preferences, gallery became photos, and suddenly even opening my alarm felt like a vocabulary test. But I stuck with it. And within a few days, my eyes stopped translating. They started recognizing. Then I did the same with my laptop, my browser, even my favorite apps. Suddenly, English wasn't just something I practiced during study time. It was everywhere. Then I changed what I listened to. I swapped local radio stations for English podcasts. I filled my playlists with English music. I subscribed to YouTubers who spoke naturally, fast, funny, real. And instead of panicking when I didn't understand everything, I reminded myself, this is how babies learn too. First they hear, then they try. So I let myself be a beginner again. In the mornings, I'd make tea and play a 5-minute English podcast. At night, I'd fall asleep listening to a voice with a British or American accent. Even while cleaning or cooking, I'd let English fill the room. It felt strange at first, but over time, it felt like home. I didn't stop there. I printed little notes and stuck them on my wall. Speak first. Fix later. Fluency is built, not born. Mistakes mean progress. These reminders weren't just motivation. They were anchors. They helped me stay connected to my goal, even when I didn't feel confident. And maybe the most powerful change? I started thinking in English. Not 24/7, not fluently at first, but little by little. Instead of asking myself, क्या मुझे ये करना चाहिए? I'd ask, should I really do this? Instead of thinking, आज का दिन बहुत boring था, I'd catch myself saying in my mind, today felt slow, but I'm proud I still practiced. That's how immersion happened. Not through travel, not through moving abroad, but through small, repeatable choices I made in my space. So, if your room is quiet right now, if your city doesn't speak English, if you feel like your environment is holding you back, here's the truth. You can bring English to you. You don't need the perfect place. You just need to make your space your own language lab, a safe, daily, living practice zone. Put English in your ears, on your screens, in your mouth, on your walls. And one day, without realizing it, you'll wake up inside an English world. Not because you moved, but because you built it. Here's something most people don't talk about enough. What do you do when there's no one to speak English with? No native speaker, no teacher, no conversation partner. Just you, alone, in a room, with your thoughts. That was me. For a long time, I thought I couldn't practice speaking without another person. I believed fluency required interaction, two people bouncing ideas back and forth. And while that's helpful, of course, it's not the only way. And it's definitely not the way I started. At first, I felt stuck. I didn't have access to language exchanges or speaking clubs. My friends weren't interested, and I was too shy to talk to strangers online. So, I made a choice. I would speak to the one person who was always available, me. I began slowly, just whispering phrases in the mirror while brushing my teeth, narrating what I was doing. Now I'm washing my face. I need to make breakfast. This shirt needs ironing. It felt silly. It felt awkward. But it felt like something real, something mine. Because suddenly, I wasn't just studying English. I was living it. Over time, I leveled up. I started doing imaginary interviews. I'd sit in my chair and ask myself questions. So, what do you do? How do you spend your weekends? What's something you're proud of? And I'd answer out loud. No script, no translator. Just whatever came to mind. Mistakes, pauses, and all. It was messy, but it was magic. Because the more I did it, the more I trusted myself to speak freely. Then came voice notes. I began recording myself on my phone, 1 or 2 minutes a day, talking about how I felt, what I did, what I was learning. And listening back was eye-opening. I could hear my improvement. I could catch patterns and filler words. I could feel my own confidence building, sentence by sentence. Speaking without a partner taught me something powerful. Your voice matters, even if no one else is listening. Because the first person who needs to hear your English is you. You have to get used to your rhythm, your sound, your mistakes, your courage. That's how speaking becomes natural, when you stop performing and start expressing. So here's my advice. Don't wait for the perfect speaking partner. Don't wait for a class. Don't wait for permission. Talk to yourself, out loud, every day, about anything. Because fluency doesn't start in conversation with others. It starts in conversation with yourself. And once you can speak to yourself with confidence, you'll be ready for the world. If speaking was the way I trained my voice, then writing was how I trained my mind. And honestly, I didn't expect it to be so powerful. At first, writing in English felt like extra homework. Slow, tiring, a little uncomfortable. But something happened the more I did it. I started thinking in English, naturally. And I started understanding myself better, too. I still remember the first time I wrote in my journal without translating. I was sitting on my bed, just trying to clear my head after a long day. And instead of writing in my native language, I picked up my pen and started writing in English. Today was heavy. I didn't feel productive, but I still tried, and that matters. That sentence wasn't perfect. It wasn't fancy, but it was honest. And when I reread it, I realized something. English was no longer just a skill I was practicing. It was becoming the language I trusted with my truth. From that day on, I built a writing routine, simple, gentle, daily. Each night, I'd open my notebook and answer 3 quiet questions. What did I feel today? What did I learn today? What do I want tomorrow? And over time, those pages became something special. They became a space where I wasn't judged, corrected, or compared. I was just heard. By myself. What writing gave me was clarity. When my thoughts felt heavy, writing made them lighter. When I felt stuck, writing helped me move forward. When I was scared to speak, writing reminded me I could. It didn't matter if I made mistakes. It didn't matter if my grammar wasn't perfect. What mattered was I was showing up. And day by day, that changed everything. The biggest shift? I started thinking in English, not just during writing time, but while walking, planning, solving problems, and dreaming. And that's when English truly became part of my identity, not just a language I was learning, but a space I was living in. If you've never tried it, I invite you to start now. Just 5 minutes a day. Open a notebook or your phone. Write one honest sentence about your day. Something real, something small, something yours. And trust me, those quiet sentences will become your confidence. Because the more you write, the more you hear your own voice clearly. And when you learn to listen to yourself in English, you stop being just a learner. You become a thinker, a creator, a whole new version of you, one sentence at a time. Improvement is funny. You rarely notice it while it's happening. Most days, it feels like nothing's changing. Like you're repeating the same words, making the same mistakes, circling the same doubts. I remember feeling like I was walking up a staircase, but in the dark. I didn't know if I was moving up or just standing in the same place. And then, one small, unexpected moment changed everything. It was a Saturday evening. Nothing special. I had just finished eating dinner and I sat down to relax with a movie. I chose one I'd already seen before. Something simple, light, something I loved. But here's the thing. This time, I didn't turn on the subtitles. Not because I was testing myself, not because I wanted to prove anything. I just forgot. I was tired. My brain was relaxed. I pressed play. And 10 minutes in, I realized, wait, I understand this. I'm not translating. I'm just watching. The characters were speaking fast. They were using casual expressions, slang, contractions, jokes. And somehow, I was following. Not every word, but enough to feel the story, the rhythm, the emotion. And that moment hit me like a quiet wave. I'm improving. It's actually happening. I didn't scream. I didn't jump up and down. But inside, I felt something shift. A kind of peaceful confidence. The kind that comes not from luck, but from showing up, even when no one's watching. That movie became a milestone. Not because I learned something new, but because I finally noticed what I already knew. Since that day, there have been many more moments like it. Understanding a podcast without stopping it, having a full conversation without searching for words, writing something emotional in English and not needing to translate, dreaming, and realizing the dialogue was in English. And every time it happens, I smile and think, this is real. My effort is working. I didn't need a classroom. I didn't need a plane ticket. I just needed to believe in the process and keep going. So if you haven't had your breakthrough moment yet, please don't stop. Because it's coming. It might feel small when it arrives, but it'll stay with you forever. You'll remember where you were, how it felt, and how proud you were to finally whisper to yourself, wow, I understood that. I just spoke that. I'm actually improving. Let me tell you something real. Not every day of this journey felt inspiring. There were days I felt like I was moving backwards. Days when I repeated the same sentence 5 times and still didn't get it right. Days when I watched a podcast and thought, how are they speaking so fast? Will I ever sound like that? What's wrong with me? And maybe the hardest part? Some days, it felt like I was doing everything right, but nothing was happening. No improvement. No magic moment. Just silence. Just effort. That's what we call a plateau. It's when you're still walking, but it feels like you're not getting any closer, and it messes with your mind. Because you start asking, am I stuck? Am I wasting my time? Should I just accept that I'm not good at this? I've been there, more than once. There was a week where I almost gave up. I had recorded myself speaking every day. I'd journaled, listened, shadowed, practiced vocabulary. And yet, one afternoon, I couldn't answer a simple question in English from someone online. My mind went blank. I panicked. I froze. Afterwards, I sat on the floor with my notebook in front of me. And I just stared at it. No words, no motivation. Only one thought. What's the point? But here's the truth that kept me going. And maybe it'll help you too. Frustration means you care. Plateaus mean you're growing. And self-doubt is a sign that you're pushing past your comfort zone. Progress doesn't always feel like winning. Sometimes it feels like showing up anyway. Tired, uncertain, doubting, but still there. So, I started doing a small thing that made a big difference. I kept a tiny wins journal. Each night, I wrote down one small thing I did in English. Understood a phrase in a song. Wrote 5 honest sentences in my journal. Didn't quit. Those didn't feel like much at the time. But after a week, then a month, I looked back and saw a mountain of effort I had climbed without realizing it. And here's what I know now. Growth is quiet, especially in language. You don't notice it every day, but one day, someone will compliment your pronunciation, or you'll catch yourself speaking without fear, and you'll realize, I didn't stop. And because of that, I'm here. So if you're in a low moment right now, in that space where things feel slow, hard, invisible, please don't quit. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are in the middle of something beautiful. And even if it doesn't feel like it, you're getting stronger with every sentence. For a long time, I treated English like a subject. You know, like math, science, history. Something to memorize, something to pass, something I could put away after practice. But somewhere along the way, that changed. And I didn't even notice it at first. It was subtle. A shift. One day, I caught myself thinking in English without trying. Another day, I answered a message in English without translating. And then one night, I wrote something personal in my journal. And it came out in English. Because it just felt right. That's when I realized English isn't just something I'm learning anymore. It's something I'm becoming. It didn't happen because of a certificate, not because someone said, "You're fluent now." It happened through the small, quiet choices I made daily. Listening to English when I cooked, talking to myself in the mirror before bed, watching videos that made me feel understood, without subtitles, writing emotional things I didn't even dare say in my native language. And maybe the biggest shift? I stopped asking, "Am I saying this correctly?" and started asking, "Does this feel honest?" Because fluency isn't just about grammar. It's about connection, comfort, confidence. It's when the language becomes the space where your real thoughts live, not just your memorized ones. English became the voice I used when I wanted to dream bigger. It became the language of the podcasts that motivated me, the quotes that made me stronger, the songs that helped me cry, the affirmations that helped me try again. And slowly, it stopped feeling like a foreign skill. It started feeling like a part of me. Now, when people ask, "Why are you still learning English?" I smile. Because I'm not just learning anymore. I'm building something. A version of myself that's more open, more curious, more free. And English, this language I once feared, has become the tool that helped me grow into that person. So if you're listening right now and still feel like English is something you have to do, something on your to-do list, let me tell you this. There's a version of you that thinks, dreams, feels, and speaks in English. Not because you're perfect, but because you're present. Let it become yours. Not just your language, but your voice, your mindset, your mirror. Because English isn't just something to pass, it can be something that changes who you are, in the best possible way. By now, you've heard my stories. The good days, the messy ones, the breakthroughs, the breakdowns. But I know what you might be thinking. Okay, but what exactly did you do? What did your routine look like? How did you keep going when no one was guiding you? And today, I'll tell you. Because what helped me the most wasn't magic, or expensive tools, or long hours. It was a personal formula. Simple, real, and doable. A rhythm I created to stay consistent, even when motivation disappeared. Here's what it looked like. 1. Morning mindset. English input. First thing. Every morning, before checking messages or scrolling online, I'd play something in English. A 5-minute motivational podcast. A YouTube video. A piece of music I loved. Why? Because I wanted my brain to wake up in English. To hear the rhythm, the emotion, the vocabulary, before anything else could distract me. That one habit alone changed my focus for the entire day. 2. Daily writing. 5 to 10. Honest sentences. In the afternoon or evening, I'd take a few quiet minutes and write in my notebook. Not grammar drills, not textbook practice, just real thoughts. Today was stressful, but I'm proud I didn't give up. I learned 3 new phrases in a podcast. I still hesitate when I speak, and that's okay. Writing gave me space. It made my thoughts slower, more intentional, and it helped me start thinking in English. 3. Speaking practice. Even without a partner, I'd talk to myself, out loud, sometimes while walking, sometimes in front of the mirror, sometimes just whispering before bed. What did I do today? How do I feel right now? What do I want tomorrow? If I got stuck, I didn't stop. I just found another way to say it. That taught me to express, not impress. 4th, passive listening. Throughout the day, whenever possible, English was in my background. Cooking, English podcast, cleaning, English music. On the bus? TED Talks? Falling asleep? Slow-spoken audio stories. I didn't understand everything at first, but I kept listening. And over time, my ears adapted. My brain started recognizing sounds, expressions, emotions. Fifth weekly review, without judgment. Every Sunday, I'd sit with my notebook and ask, what did I improve this week? What still feels hard? What's one thing I want to try next week? No shame, no pressure, just reflection. Because improvement is not a straight line. It's a quiet collection of days where you didn't quit. This was my formula. Simple, sustainable, and deeply personal. It worked because it wasn't about perfection. It was about presence. I made English part of my world, part of my mornings, my emotions, my movement, my story. And if you're building your own English life at home, you don't need to copy mine exactly. But take this truth with you. Fluency isn't a result of how much you know. It's a reflection of how often you show up, even for 5 minutes, even on the hard days, even when you feel stuck. Because every page you write, every word you speak, every time you listen instead of scroll, that's progress. And it adds up, quietly, steadily, beautifully. So, here we are, at the end of this episode. But maybe, if you really listen, it's actually the beginning of something. Not a course, not a challenge, not some 30-day fluency promise. Something more important than that. A mindset, a choice, a new belief. That you don't have to go abroad. You don't need to be surrounded by native speakers. You don't need a visa, a scholarship, or a perfect accent. What you need, what you've always needed, is already inside you. The willingness to show up, to try, to keep going. I used to think my environment was my limit, that my country, my city, my home was too small to hold a big dream. But the truth? Your dream doesn't need a passport. It needs action, right where you are. Because here's what I know now. You can fall in love with English from your bedroom. You can grow confident without ever getting on a plane. You can build fluency in the quiet hours when no one is watching. And when that confidence finally shows up in a real conversation, you'll smile. Because you'll know, I built this, brick by brick, day by day, without needing to leave, without needing to wait. So, if you're listening to this from your kitchen, your bus ride, your balcony, your tiny room with a notebook and a dream, this is your sign. You don't have to travel. You just have to try. Again and again and again. Because that's how English becomes not just your second language, but your second voice, your second skin, your second home. Thank you for listening, for staying, for believing in something you can't fully see yet. Keep going. You're not late. You're not behind. You're becoming. And that's the most powerful journey you'll ever take. Right from where you are. Right here. Right now. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for listening, not just with your ears, but with your heart. If today reminded you of something important, that you are capable, that you are growing, that your voice matters in English, then I hope you hold on to that. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be somewhere else. You just need to keep going. And I'll be right here, cheering for you. Until next time, keep speaking, keep dreaming, and most of all, keep trying. You're doing better than you think.